Hey, and welcome to The Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Let's go to Penn State next, shall we?
Okay, let's do it.
Penn State. Indulge me for a minute if I get a little long-winded on Penn State. If you want to fast forward, I get it. No harm, no foul here.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by Penn State this season. And it is not just because I'm an alum and I went there and I cheer this team on. Here is why, if you're not an alum, you should care about Penn State this season. I don't think Vegas has the slightest idea what to expect from Penn State. I don't think they know. And those are the teams, every year we talk about it, every season when we do these previews. Those are the teams that are the fun ones to keep track of. Even if you don't care anything at all about them. Those are the teams that are fun to keep track of because they're fun to bet on. You can win some money. Last season went sideways, mainly because Sean Clifford got hurt. Mainly because he went down in that Iowa game. They had no quarterback depth behind him. They didn't know what to do. So this year, despite the fact, as I qualify all of my Sean Clifford thoughts by saying, I am not the biggest Sean Clifford fan, nor have I ever been. But he's been in the system a year. He's back, presumably healthy. He's so old now that he's running his own business while playing quarterback, which
great.
You got to like that kind of ambition. He does give them that veteran presence back there at quarterback. And in year two, in the Mike Yurcich system, I think it makes Penn State really interesting on offense. So we can get into the offense a little bit more, but on that topic of Vegas, Vegas has the over-under at 8.5 for Penn State. More specifically, they've got the week 1 point spread against Purdue at 3.5. It's a road game. It's week 1. There's a lot.
3.5 point favorites.
3.5 point favorites. It was down at 2.5, which is when I grabbed it. But 3.5, I think, is showing a lot of disrespect to a good team. This is a Purdue team that's adjusting to life without David Bell, without George Karlaftis in week 1. I like Purdue. You can talk more about Purdue in the next episode, but that feels low to me. And just in general, I think this over-under is in response to uncertainty, rightful uncertainty along the line, along the front seven, a tough schedule. But I feel like this is a great candidate for a bounce-back season. So we'll do an over-under episode at some point after we get through all of these previews. But Penn State, to me, seems like a really good candidate to hit that over.
So if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, you are saying, much in the way I was very high on UCLA over LSU last year in the offseason, Purdue is your preseason home dog of week 1. Oh, Yagos.
No, I'm saying I'm taking Penn State. I picked Penn State.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
You said it was disrespectful to Purdue, so I just...
Did I say Purdue? I meant Penn State.
Oh, okay.
It's disrespectful to Penn State that line is that low, because I think Penn State's a much better team than advertised.
Big plus for Penn State, and I know you'll get to the schedule, is they don't have to play Illinois this year.
They do not have to play Illinois.
So they get to avoid that buzzsaw.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I just, look, I have all my questions about Penn State that I seem to have every year. But talk to me about talk to me about what you consider to be the main narrative, the main through point, the main storyline that's going to come up every week, maybe in a positive way, that Penn State has summited a mountain that they previously couldn't. But it seems every year I'm thinking to myself, well, they just can't seem to figure it out on offense despite recruiting all these good players.
Well, let's start there.
And they keep developing a bunch of good dudes on defense that are let down by an offense.
Let me start there.
A quintessential Big Ten West team playing in State College. Continue.
I spent all of my 30s waiting around for Penn State's line to get better. They're like Florida State North. They just there's always this promise that the line's going to get better this year, and they just haven't. Last season, they were 118th in the nation with just 108 yards per game on the ground. And it wasn't just in the box score. That's a box score number, but it killed them situationally in short yardage situations in the red zone. As the wise prophet David Pollack likes to say, it always starts up front, does it not?
It always starts up front at the line of scrimmage, yeah.
I feel good about this line. This is the best I felt about this line in quite some time. I think that they've got enough beef up front that they will be much, much better. And I think they have to be. I think that's an edict that they all know about because we saw what happened with Sean Clifford going down last season. That can't happen again this year. Quarterback depth was very thin a year ago. It's better this season, I think, with Drew Allar coming in. But they basically had to run the whole offense through Jahan Dotson last season, which there was a limit to that. They ended up going
There are worse players to run it through, but he's small and reliant on a quarterback getting him the ball.
There's only so much you can do, especially when you don't have much at the quarterback position. They ended up going 2-6 the rest of the way through their final 8 games. So I think they're better this season. I get why there would be uncertainty up front. I can't tell you for sure that they'll be better, but what I can tell you is that I think there is enough promise along that line that they can unlock more at that running back position. And I'd like to think it's Nick Singleton, their big freshman, or maybe Katron Allen, another freshman. It could be your boy, Kevon Lee.
Yep.
Let's hope that Mike Yurcich can cultivate some kind of running game. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we could say that, but I am very optimistic about that up front. Dotson is gone.
By the way, the big thing to me with that running game, just before you go on to receivers or quarterbacks or defense or something to me, if you don't have a superstar line, you can still run the ball. It's whether or not James Franklin and Mike Yurcich are on the same page with regard to being creative, lining up in different personnels, and not abandoning the run when it's not working as a straightforward, we're running inside zone again, unsuccessfully. It's, are we pulling guys creatively? Are we, changing game plans week to week? Are we using receivers in the run game, whether it's in jet action or something like that? It's really pushing themselves to, because James Franklin likes RPO stuff. That was the Kirk Shiraka, and now Mike Yurcich, and Sean Clifford is somewhat comfortable running that. But if the R isn't a threat, then the P becomes less of a threat. And so that, to me, is the thing with Penn State, is really just committing to the bit of running the ball, and not just running it for the sake of running it, but being creative about what the run game architecture looks like.
Yeah, I feel optimistic about that.
Okay.
But I don't want to fully commit to that bit because, like I said, it's been a minute. It was literally my 30s until we had a line that could really unlock potential for this offense. Dotson's gone this year. He got drafted by the Commanders. I think the wide receiver core will be fine. I like Parker Washington. I love Mitchell Tinsley. He's my pet player, the transfer from Western Kentucky. I think he's going to be a star in this offense. I'm curious to see what he can do out there. I think the offense will be fine. It will be better. Hopefully, Sean Clifford can stay healthy. Defensively, though, I think is where a lot of folks are going to train their attention when it comes to Penn State. And it's because of some of the reasons that you described earlier. They lose Brent Pry, new coach at Virginia Tech. They also lose 7 starters. They replaced Pry with Manny Diaz, who comes up from Miami. For what it's worth, I also feel like I spent most of my 30s waiting for the legend of Manny Diaz to come true. Are you with me?
Yep, absolutely.
This has been one of those movies where the critics like it a lot better than the general public with Manny Diaz. For our purposes here, for whatever it's worth, he runs a similar enough system to Brent Pry, maybe a little bit more aggressive and attacking, aren't they all? But I think generally speaking, it's close enough. The secondary is strong. It can probably handle the added strain of them being more aggressive in the front 7. This is the 7th best scoring defense, the 4th best defense in terms of points per play last season. Even if they take a marginal step back, I think it's tolerable. And there's a chance they get this whole thing figured out by mid-October. There's enough talent across the board that I think they'll be fine. They do sustain some losses, but I think their secondary will be pretty good. So I feel very optimistic about this defense, especially with Manny Diaz. I don't think we're going to see a blip. And it's not going to be like a big step back because of a new system or changing anything up. Nope. I think it's going to remain mostly in state. So
yeah, it's also not a heavyweight roster of quarterbacks on Penn State's schedule.
No.
Like, it's Aiden O'Connell. It's whatever you believe in Cade McNamara and whatever you believe in Tanner Morgan reuniting with Kirk Shiraka. Obviously, C.J. Stroud. But, like, I guess if you're a Talia Tagovailoa, like I think Peyton Thorne is good.
Look.
And we'll get to Michigan State, but also...
Pause.
Okay.
What you're saying is this.
Okay.
What you're saying is Penn State has potential to lose a dumb one. And they're coached by
yeah,
James
of
Franklin.
course.
So yes,
Yeah.
of course they have potential to lose a dumb one. But we're not talking about a heavyweight schedule of baller quarterbacks are going to go nuts on them.
No.
Right? If they lose a dumb one, it's because their offense isn't living up to its end of the bargain. It's not necessarily because the defense is going to get blown out of the water by the teams on this schedule. Maybe against Ohio State, maybe against, there are obviously some better offenses on this schedule, but even like a non-con game against Auburn, I don't think that offense is going to be cooking with gas. Zach Calzada, are you kidding me? No. So I feel fine about Penn State's role in all this. As I said, or maybe didn't say, I do like them to win that week 1 game against Purdue. I like them to win and cover. They've had all off season to think about going 7-6 or whatever it was. And I think their defense matches up really well with Purdue. They're going to win that game. I think they're going to do well on the road at Auburn week 3. I think it'll be close, but I just don't like Zach Calzada. I don't.
Okay.
Beyond that, crunch time's mid-October. Crunch time is Michigan. They get Michigan after a bye. It's home against Minnesota in an all-time sandwich game that if there's a dumb one or a moderately dumb one that they lose, that's the game. Before home against Ohio State in the weird noon whiteout game because Fox sucks. But I feel good about Penn State. I feel very good about that over 8.5.
I don't. Sorry, I just don't. Because I just don't know how far you can jump up as an offense with the same coordinator and same quarterback who was going through things, having offensive line questions, having blowing dumb game questions. And also, it's summer as we record this, but your confidence in Sean Clifford and this Penn State offense with a not good line traveling to Auburn, which is a tough place to play, which should have a pretty good defense, it flies in the face of at least my rules for picking games.
Fine. That's fine.
And so
I get it. I totally get it.
You can talk about Auburn's offense and their quarterback situation as well, but an at least pretty good defense at home in a tough place to play against an underwhelming, what we perceive to be an underwhelming offense. That's a trip you got to take maybe solo.
That's fine. All right.
Yeah.